What's up, guys? It's Matt. On today's edition of the TKW podcast, we are thrilled to be joined by Brian Koppelman, co-creator and showrunner of Billions. We go into some of his life as a Knicks fan, some of his experiences growing up in the Garden, how him and his son have bonded through being Knicks fans, and then we get into his experience in the entertainment industry, some celebrities that he's dealt with, and we also talk about the current political state and how that affects the projects that he works on moving forward. So awesome interview. We're really happy Brian came on. Without further ado, let's go.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Columbia, this is... This is Houston, AOS, over.
Hello, folks, and welcome to the TKW podcast. I'm Matt Spendley, and Kyle Bailey and I are thrilled to be joined by Billions co-creator and showrunner Brian Koppelman, and most importantly, Knicks fan. Brian, how's it going?
It's going great, man. Other than whenever you mention the Knicks.
Yeah, well, that's how it goes. You know, what's funny? I was looking you up today just to make sure I was, well versed, and I found a piece of yours from Grantland in December 2013 that was just titled "The Knicks Suck."
Yeah,
and I got a huge kick out of it.
That was a terrible night, man. I mean, I wasn't exaggerating. Like, my son and I left that game, and we just went trudging uptown. Like, I live all the way on the Upper West Side. So, we walked 60 blocks or something like that. Not quite 60, but we walked so many blocks, just miserable with each other. I guess he was a high school senior at the time.
That makes sense.
And it'd been years. I started taking him to the games when he was 3. And so, we had a couple good years there, but basically, he was born in 95, at the end of 95. So we had a couple of decent years, but then mostly just suckage, raw fucking suckage. And then no hope that it would change. Anytime something good started to happen, lots of unlucky breaks. Like, you draft Channing Frye, and then Channing Frye comes out super promising, and he's playing loose, and then suddenly Coach Brown comes and ruins him because he wants him to play a different way. And over there would be this promising sign, and then something would cut it off at the knees. And right up until obviously we were huge Jeremy Lin people, and watching Carmelo destroy that team, watching him undo everything D'Antoni was trying to do. And yes, I know they won 54 games with Brown the next year. It doesn't matter. They had a chance to be something really special, and it got ruined again. And you just have a guy running the team and there's just no other way to say it. I mean, he's just a moron. And it makes, not Steve Mills. I think Steve Mills is a great guy and a smart guy, but the guy who pays Steve Mills' check is the worst. And nothing's going to change until he's either forced to step down or sell.
The Dolan thing is a huge issue for every single Knicks fan, and it has been forever. And it almost feels like the general feeling around all NBA circles is until he's gone, the Knicks can't be a good franchise. And that's just how it is. It's not going to change.
I used to be the kind of fanatical Knicks fan who knew where each player wanted the ball and their preferred position on the court, and I understood the offense they were running. And when they drafted somebody, I knew everything about them. And I will tell you guys, and this has to do with the fact that I'm much older than you all.
Not that much.
I can't deal with it. I can't deal with it anymore. I can't. I watched the draft. I couldn't help myself, but I didn't read up really ahead of time. I watched the kids work out. What's his name? The kid from Kentucky?
Kevin Knox.
Kevin Knox.
I watched the workout yesterday, and I was heartened to see that he could hit some deep threes. Very impressive. I guess to have someone who can hit some threes under pressure will be good. But I can't really. And yes, I'm more than I know that Gwen is going to be gone. I understand all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But I'm not living and dying with every move they make or with every roster decision. I always know if they won or lost, but I've stopped allowing my mood to be dictated by the Knicks. And my son and I, the two of us, our mood was dictated by the Knicks for a long, long fucking time. My dad, too. The first memory I have as a human being is being with my dad at the Garden when the Knicks were playing the Baltimore Bullets and Earl the Pearl was on the Bullets and Dancing Harry was there. And then when Pearl came to the Knicks the next year, that was the most exciting thing that had ever happened to me as a 5-year-old, you know, or 6-year-old. And that's what the Knicks meant to me forever and ever. And, you know, but it's just been nothing but, I don't know how you guys do it, like how you keep your enthusiasm or how you keep your hope up.
Well,
Keep your hope up.
I was going to say, I think the beautiful thing, like, coming from a guy, I share those same sentiments. Like, for me, once I started trying to cover this a little bit more objectively and, like, try to put on my, like, analyst hat, for me, that's when I stopped, like, shattering remotes when they lost to the Celtics in a 4-game sweep after Amari hurt his back. Like, you know, so for me, it's kind of helped to be like, well, I can't get angry. I have work to do. Like, so for me, it's sort of alleviated that emotional side of it. Maybe there'll come a day when that changes, but
sure.
I think that, I don't know about Matt and Bailey, but I mean, that's how I feel anyway. I'm not like you're saying, not living or dying by things now. It's just like, look, we just gotta do our jobs every day. We gotta report some stuff. We gotta put some content out, and it makes things a little bit more digestible, I guess.
Yeah, and I've said this in the past too. I think we've all, especially like in our Slack group, like in our group chat, like our Knicks Ball group, like we have such a cynical gallows humor type sense of humor where like even if something good happens, we don't cheer, we don't rejoice. Like we just are like, wow, it's going to be really great to write about when this goes to shit.
Something happens, it's going to go the other way. I mean,
yeah, no, exactly.
You can't possibly think that a good quarter means a fucking thing at this point. I mean, it just it just doesn't.
And we couldn't possibly expect them to draft the best player in the franchise in 20 years and him not tear his ACL. It's like those little things.
Exactly.
No,
exactly.
I mean, no, it's a nonstop. It's like just a nonstop insult that just keeps hitting you in the. It's an insult machine that won't stop. And look, when I was writing about it a lot for Grantland, there was something cathartic about being able to do that, but it didn't feel good to see what was going to happen ahead of time, to predict the Carmelo thing. That was the Carmelo Anthony Joyrecker thing I wrote was the one that a lot of people read and cared about, and it brought me no joy to write about it. I will say I got to write for Sports Illustrated, Bailey's New Home. I got to write about I got to write Anthony Mason's eulogy for Sports Illustrated, and I loved writing that. I felt terrible that Mace was gone, but the lunch pail the aesthetic that those guys brought to the table, Mace and Starks, and that team, their determination to play as hard as a human could play and as smart as they were capable of, and willing to sacrifice their bodies and their souls for this thing, really moved me as a younger person. And I just wish I see teams playing like that, and I just wish that, but it does seem like when people come to New York, they don't care. Like, yes, Porzingis is ACL, but also Porzingis' brother who messed with his head before that. And so, yes, Porzingis got hurt, but even before that, Porzingis decided, who gives a shit? On some level, he was playing great, but you felt that this was a guy, he got rid of his general manager, he was dissatisfied with the way the thing was running, and his brother was telling him he was the best player in the world, and why should he have to take orders from anybody? And I think there's something in the culture of the Knicks. If you would have given Porzingis to Pop, and forgetting what happened, obviously, with Kawhi, but that's a real exception, If you would have given Porzingis to Pop, I think Porzingis is even in a way further along kind of place.
So you mentioned about that story you wrote for Grantland about how you were with your son at Madison Square Garden, and something just as a follower of both on Twitter of both yours and your son, it seems like that's something. I mean, I know I've seen you tag him in Knicks tweets before and tag him in this and that. So what is the Knicks like? It seems to have like a large impact kind of in your.
Did you guys lose Bailey too? I lost the end of that question.
Yeah, we lost Bailey.
So just generally, like how you and your son have bonded over being Knicks fans.
Well, like I said, my first memory was my dad taking me, and I started taking my son when he was really young. When I graduated college, the first year I graduated college, I got lucky in a business thing I did, and I made enough money to buy one season ticket. And I bought it with a friend of mine who was 10 years older than I was. And the two of us had, a couple hundred rows back, 2 tickets, one each. And then about 10 years into it, he had to move to California. And this is when Sam was like 2, and so I got both tickets. And by that time, I'd moved up and moved up and moved up, and I ended up being like in the 6th row center court before they raised the prices. And so we started going to games 6th row center court because I'd already put in the 12 years to move the tickets up. And so the two of us, my son and I, just would go to pretty much every home game. Mm-hmm. And, it's something that you're really talking about and thinking about. And he painted his room orange and blue, and he has still on the room. I mean, he graduated Harvard this year, and he came home to our house for a month before he moves into his apartment. And he's like still in the room that has on the wall is the number that he painted, the number of every Knick who's got his number retired, everyone who's in the rafters, plus the 613 for Red Holzman, or 619 for Red Holzman, yep. 613 for Red Holzman, and then Bernard's number 30. So he has 2 15s, because there are 2 15s retired, and Bernard. And so it's just it's like a central part of the language. We still the first game of the year, wherever we are in the world, we're both watching and talking to each other on the phone. Then, we stop at some point because it gets too sad.
You and your son are basically the same age as me and my dad. So I think it's a similar kind of relationship that we have. It's where you were the one that's telling, my dad's got some older brothers too that's saying, you wouldn't imagine. Like my older uncle was a ball boy for the Knicks. So he was a ball boy, 70, 73, so he's got all these stories. He told me a story that he once brought a bowl of soup to Dustin's Hoffman house. I still don't think it's true, but he can keep believing it if he wants to. I guess it's a really funny juxtaposition because we never knew anything but being young and growing up and being, we were 4 when the Knicks made the finals against the Spurs, and then we were 8 when they had actually been a playoff team that we had anything to root for. And so that year in 2012-13 when they were actually really good was such a change from the norm. It was incredible.
It was wild.
Yeah, it's been such an interesting journey.
Like Sammy, you guys must have watched all the old.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. My dad forced them down my throat. What else?
Yeah. So that's the thing. You guys knew Bernard, and you knew
absolutely.
So this is the thing. That Bernard game, when Bernard against the Pistons was April 27th, 1984, when the Pistons in the 5th game, Bernard had the 2 broken fingers. Isaiah scored the 16 points at the end of the game to tie it, and then the Knicks won. And the Knicks then went on to play against the Celtics. So that was my 18th birthday. So my 18th birthday, my friends and I watched this, like one of the last truly amazing moments when we had arguably, we had the 2nd best player in the league, or the 3rd best player in the league on our team. He was playing at his best. He defeated the huge rival. Then we went and lost to the Celtics in 7, I think, maybe 6 or 7.
Yeah.
That was, I felt like it was going to keep going. And then the next, I go to college that next year, and I can totally remember when he hurt his knee, and that was the moment everything started going really badly south for us.
Can you imagine? All right, let me ask you this: best moment at the Garden you ever experienced over your however many odd years going to the Knicks games?
I mean, there's so many moments that I could talk about. I was there for I'll say, you're not going to like one answer. So I was there for the Starks dunk. Mm-hmm. I was there for a Larry Johnson shot. But the greatest thing I ever saw in the Garden, I think, other than when I was a little boy with my dad, which I'm not going to, like, as a sentient person, I was at the game where Jordan scored the 55.
Oh,
that hurts.
And, that's the best. I mean, it was.
It's fair. It's a good objective answer.
Yeah.
It was a crazy thing it was just a crazy thing to see. To see that guy come back second day, right? And in Madison Square Garden, all the Knicks wanted to do was shut him down. And, what he did, the way the Garden felt that night, you felt like you were seeing the greatest athlete who ever lived, rising up to the top of his level. And it lifted the whole building up, And then in a dark sense, I really loved it when Spree came back and made the choking thing too.
Oh my God, yes.
Me, I was there, and that's another all-time great moment. I mean, the whole garden is just cheering like crazy for Spree, and Dolan has to just, sit through it.
Yeah, exactly. The last thing that he would want to do.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes your problems are your own fault. You reap what you sow. So
That's
I mean,
Yes.
What would it take at this point, because you've expressed like your displeasure in certain things, like what would it take for you to be like all back on board like you used to be, or do you think that's kind of too far gone, you couldn't get there, too much going on?
I want to say the only thing would be Dolan leaving the team, but suddenly we were really winning. I think I would just emotionally, I mean, guys, like I have to, if you went to my apartment as now me as a 52-year-old man, and you opened a bunch of drawers, you'd see like 100 vintage Knick hats that I've just kept for all that time. Like, so I still in my blood. But I hope it would be the Dolan leaves. If they started winning a bunch of games and they were playing a brand of basketball that seemed like they could win. I mean, Jeremy Lin leaving, really, I know all the metrics people don't care. But to me, there was a chance that Lin could have been brought along in a way that he could have continued to play that well. I know that people figured out how to defend him and make him go left. I understand the sort of stat geek argument. On the other hand, I watched the kid do this remarkable stuff. So I did feel kind of crushed when they let him go.
It's one of the more great, like, as a Knicks fan growing up, as I mentioned, our age, the Linsanity thing has so much emotion behind it that the Knicks just didn't have for so many years, and that's what made it so great.
Yeah,
it was innocent joy,
Exactly.
which is something that has just eluded this franchise.
We were all like we were all letting this kid carry us away. And I'm an hardcore atheist. I mean, there's nothing about Jeremy Lin as a dude that makes me want to hang with him. Other than like he's smart and he obviously read a lot of books when he was at school, we'd find something to talk about. But like his core belief system and my core belief system are quite different. But that's the magic of sport and the magic of being a lifelong fan of a team like that. Suddenly, for 48 minutes, Jeremy Lin was everything in the world to me. And Dolan he's like a tone-deaf band conductor or something. He has no sense of why we love music. He can't hear it. And so he can't make the right decisions because he doesn't feel anything. We feel stuff. He doesn't feel anything.
Do you know Oak at all? Like Charles Oakley, have you ever had conversations with him?
No, but I mean, so Simmons texted me, and he was like, if there's one podcast in your life you ever have to listen to Oak.
He talked that one up, too, right before he was like, this is the best podcast I've ever recorded in my entire life.
He personally texted his friends, too.
Yeah.
Say, like, you have to watch, and you have to listen, and I did, and it was awesome. I shook Oak's hand, but I don't know him.
Okay.
I never spent time with him.
Got it. Just curious.
I've spent a lot of time with Earl Monroe in my life, which is incredible. But I don't, and I know you probably heard the Simmons a couple years ago. Like I've had a bunch of dinners and spent a bunch of time with Phil Jackson. But so when we've talked a lot about the Knicks.
Did you ever try to get any Knicks guys on Billions or anything? Was that something you ever thought about just to shoehorn it in?
Yeah, but not these Knicks.
Yeah, well, obviously. You're telling me people don't want to see, Courtney Lee? I'm shocked. Courtney Lee, Lance Thomas, superstars. I just wanted to congratulate you on the show again. The third season was awesome.
Thank you, man.
So and Rounders is obviously one of my favorite movies. Do you have any aspirations to do anything sports centric or anything like that moving forward?
We almost did at the beginning of our career. We almost did a story about the Globetrotters, and there have been various point shaving movies we've flirted with doing. We just haven't found. It's weird. It's hard to conceive of how you do a basketball movie better than Hoosiers. It's hard to conceive of how you do a football movie better than Rudy or Return of the Titans. Is that the name of that movie? Return of the Titans.
Remember the Titans.
Remember the Titans.
Yeah.
Remember the Titans. I was saying it wrong.
Yeah.
There are these movies that are just sort of lay out the dance steps of what that would be. And so you don't want to do something that would feel familiar. If we found a way to do it that was new and different, we would. The way we work is we find a subject that's really compelling to us, and we try to research it and chase it down and then figure out a way to tell the story in a way that it hasn't and that hasn't presented itself. We're huge sports fans.
Mm-hmm.
We'd love to make a golf movie if we could figure out how to do it. There's only really been one great one in a very, very long time, you know, and so I would do it if we thought of the right thing. But on the other hand, Billions takes up our whole lives professionally.
Yeah, I can imagine. Who's your favorite cameo that you guys have had? Because I know you've had KD, Mark Cuban, you know, the Tish guys.
Well, yeah, we've had a bunch of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say my favorites ever. I will say that this year, like it was amazing that KD, I knew he was going to come on the show. We talked about it. We gotten together. I was thrilled he came and he knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I would say, though, that it was surreal to have Maria Sharapova on the show.
That's right. That's right.
It was so difficult because Damien's so good at tennis, and so you didn't have to double Damien, and so being able to actually have your actor smashing the ball back to one of the 10 greatest female tennis players ever.
It was amazing.
And the other thing about her that was incredible, so she's hitting with Damien, and, you know, she's probably playing at 50%, which is a lot of heavy topspin and not easy, and Damien's hitting it back. But no, we had said to Maria, listen, when I shout to you, put it away, can you put it away? Does he need to hit it somewhere? And she was just like, don't worry about it, wherever he hits it. And it was true. So she would hit, he would hit, she would hit, and then Damien would hit a shot, and I'd say, put it away. And, like, whatever Damien did, hard ball, high ball, low ball, far ball, Maria could just, like, get to the ball in a way that seemed effortless and just smash it into the exact corner we needed her to and put it away. Like, top pro athletes are just, it's shocking.
They're freaks.
It's shocking.
They're not of this species.
Yeah.
what they're able to do. It's like
you don't realize until you see it.
You don't. The exact level, like, you know, they're much, like, you know, if I were hitting with Maria Sharapova, I couldn't keep it in play. But what you don't understand is, like, she's not even playing tennis with you. It's nothing to her. It doesn't even exist. She's on so many levels beyond. You know?
I have a funny story about that. It's not even a Maria Sharapova story, but at the rec league I play in down the street, we had a team from Waterbury, and Ryan Gomes is from Waterbury in Connecticut. So after he had gotten released by the Thunder a couple of years back, his friends were playing in our league, and they're like, "Oh, come play with us. You know, just get some run." So he comes, and, you know, everybody's like heckling him the first half. You could see he's not really trying, but he's like 0 for 10. He's just kind of shooting whatever, right? He doesn't really care, right? So then somebody that I'm good friends with was really laying into him about, like, you know, you fucking suck, just like laying into him, right? So then he goes and he scores like these are 8-minute quarters, and this is like on a high school court, and he's just like gargantuan in comparison to everyone. And he goes on to score like 35 out of the next like 40 points. They end up, they were down by like 10 at halftime. It was a blowout win. It was just disgusting, and like. You could tell it wasn't even like 100%. Like, he was just like slightly engaged. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, of course.
And when you see it, like, again, it's one thing to watch it when they're playing each other, professional competition. But when you see it against like amateur competition, you're like, this is why it's difficult to stay in the NBA.
No, I always want to play horse. Like, I'm a pretty good shooter, and I always want to play horse against these guys. So, like, I've gotten to know JJ and become friendly with him. And I was trying to figure out how I would set up a gambling horse match. This is what I came up with. Tell me what you guys think. So let's say JJ's what, the 4th best shooter in the league or the 3rd best shooter in the league or something like that.
There.
Yep.
So I want him to start with S, and then also he has to shoot 10 feet behind wherever I shoot. And then I think there's a chance. But in all likelihood, there's still no chance.
10 feet behind. Wow.
So, yeah, well, that feels fair. Like,
yeah.
He could still win. He should still win. So I was with him and Mike Dunleavy Jr., and Dunleavy Jr. said, if JJ shot first, even under those rules, you can't win. You couldn't beat him. Like, if he shot first, and JJ's like, dude, the 4 letters on me are not pressure. I'm not going to feel pressure. Like, you're going to feel all the pressure. But I was thinking, if I shot a 3, he would have to shoot 10 feet behind 3.
Well, that's an excellent point, because I know we like to make fun of guys like, you know, even Dwight Howard or somebody who can't make free throws. But then you watch these practice videos, and Dwight Howard's shooting like 90% from the free throw line in practice. Like, it's just different. So, like, him shooting 10 feet behind you, like, that's a good start. You know, like, it's still probably going to be pretty easy for him, but, like, it's a good start. You have to, like, almost place these impossible odds for them, because in shoot-around situations, like, they're going to be lights out one way or another.
Yes, I agree. I gotta get the game to. I think I'm gonna make it happen though. I'm gonna work on getting that to happen this summer.
You gotta make it a whole video.
You can make him. I've been trying to like make him take shots. perhaps, before a shot, like an alcoholic beverage.
Sure,
to sort of slant the odds in your favor a little bit.
I've just been going to the gym and trying to shoot. I've just been going to shoot and trying to figure out what, like, I'm going to try to really strategize it out and, like, practice all these shots so that I can set it up. I'm still going to get destroyed.
So something I've noticed, Brian, is like you're very active on Twitter and social media. I mean, that's how you and I have got to know one another and everything. And you do like your open forum, basically, where you have people ask you questions every week. So where did this come from? And like, what value do you think that brings to like you personally and Billions and everything? Because like I don't see a lot of people kind of champion like you do on there.
Well, I do that during the season, that Ask Me Anything thing, Sunday nights before the show. Well, I'm in this incredibly fortunate position. So I have a few different answers. One, look, man, Trump changes everything, so that made me much, much more active and probably ineffective. Like, no one can figure out the right messaging or the right way to do it. I sort of hate what he's doing to the country so much that I feel like to miss an opportunity to restate it or find a new way to state it is not being a good American, so I have to do it. But engaging with people, you know, when I started doing a Vine series a long time ago, and I host the podcast at the moment, and I get a lot out of trying to help people give themselves permission to do creative work. And so if I can, by my example or my words, help somebody who's not getting the most out of themselves creatively start to, it just feels good. It's really simple. It's selfish. It's like I get letters from people who got to start doing a thing partially because of a conversation we had. You know, it feels great. Also, when I was a kid, man, I would have loved if the guy, you know, one of the guys who was the showrunner of my favorite show took 10 minutes to like answer my question online. That would have really meant something to me. And I don't hold myself out as special or different. Like, I have a certain set of talents. I worked super hard. I've gotten lucky. It's no skin off of my nose to fucking spend a half hour chatting with people. So it's like, for me, it's a simple thing. Like, I don't really see a need to put myself above or be private or separate. I'm not going to tell you where I live, but I am going to be, you know, and I'm not going to read your script or anything like that, but I'm happy to try to be some kind of big brother on there for people if they need it.
So I wasn't going to bring it up, but since you did bring it up, you are strong oppositionally to Trump, very clearly out there on there. It's not something I'm going to argue with, certainly at all. You follow me, you see that. So do you think that's boosted your following? Do you ever get people? I know you're notorious for being on there, for being like, "Thanks for watching." When someone's like, "Why are you tweeting about politics?" Like on there, so like, how, like is that like,
"How dare you hate Trump? Your show sucks. I watched 2 seasons. I hate it." I'm just like, "Thanks for watching." You know. But no, look, dude. There's no. I have to separate it out. I'm definitely not like helping my brand by being against Trump, but I am first like a father and a husband and an American citizen and a citizen of the world, and like I can't not speak out when things are terrible. Like, okay, when Trump says we should just send people back at the border without due process. Well, if people don't understand how crazy that is, that means, Bailey, that if you happen to be in Texas, a guard could look at you, decide not to even look at your papers, and just kick you out of the country. That's insane. And so I have no choice but to, you know, I'm educated as a lawyer too. I have no choice but to speak out. I don't think it's helped me in terms of my Twitter following. I'll also say I probably never thought I'd have this big of a social media following and like the reach I have because of the kind of people who follow me. Whatever, if I have more followers or slightly fewer, that can't impact me. You know what I mean? I get to make this TV show, and the other thing is because I'm older than you guys. You know, I've been at this 22 years. I've gotten to make a whole bunch of movies. I sort of am who I am, for good or for bad in the culture. Whatever I am is sort of set. It's the thing that I am, right? People listen to my podcast. That's me for an hour every week. They feel like I'm their best friend. And that's just that doesn't sort of change. That's just the way that it is. Yeah, man, I think it probably is a net negative for like adding followers. I think people would rather I talked about the Knicks, rock and roll, movies, and books. I think that's what people who follow me and like advice. I think that's what people want. On the other hand, I feel a duty, so I'm torn. If Trump had lost the election, I wouldn't be tweeting about politics at all. And when he's out of office, I will go back to not tweeting about politics.
Well, I personally am glad that you do. So
We all are.
yeah, I'm glad. We're all glad you do there.
I have one last question, and then we'll get you out of here. When you're so I know you said Billings is going to have a few seasons, maybe 7 seasons. When you're going through, and with the current political environment and a show that's so politically driven, do you account for that when you're writing the show? Do you write characters that were meant to dislike that are built in that mold? How do you approach that?
You have to know the world shifted, so you can't ignore it completely. We don't make the show about Trump, but this year Jock Jeffcoat was clearly a character who came from an administration like Trump's administration. You have to put that stuff on its feet. And it's great that we have a show and a network that allows us, the show is built for that in a way. And so you don't want to, you want to be measured. I mean, there aren't very many heroes on our show, so you're presenting the way you see all different aspects of the world. It informs it, but it doesn't dictate it, is I guess what I would say. All
right, so Brian, we really thank you for joining, man. Eagerly await the Kevin Knox cameo the next season of Billions.
Guys, I'll come back when the Knicks, if after the second week of the season, the Knicks are in first place for a week or longer, I'll come back and we'll celebrate.
Oh, boy. All right.
We have that to look Maybe we'll meet up. Maybe we'll even meet up. How's that sound? Maybe we'll even try to catch a game together. Yeah?
All right, guys.
Good.
All right, Brian. All right. Thanks, man.
Thank you so much.